I got to take a moment here to say something about my friend, Susanna Loeb, in this remarkable conference she's put on. I first met Susanna in the early months, if not the early weeks of the pandemic, when students were sent home from school, and a group of people came together, some outstanding leaders in education, and they thought for some reason to put me in the group also. And so we were meeting on a fairly regular basis to talk about remote tutoring and then high-impact tutoring. Well, two things came out of that. Southern Education Foundation, we formed the Center for Outcomes-Based Contracting and brought that into the Southern Education Foundation from Harvard University. And Susanna started the National Student Support Accelerator. And and she put me on the board of advisors for some reason, and had the first meeting in Rhode Island at Brown University. Well, I think about the first year of that, I ran to Susanna. She said, "Raymond, how's that going with that outcomes-based contracting? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Do you think it's going to work?" And it was when she grilled me, I said, "Whoa, this is serious." And I went back to my team and started asking questions, and so we've built a very, very powerful organization, the Center for Outcomes-Based Contracting. So, Susanna, I want to thank you for that as well, for your encouragement there. So listen, we're here to talk to, hear from two folks here who are leaders in education and doing some exciting things in terms of high-impact tutoring, and we want to hear their stories and how that has worked. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Estrada. Did I pronounce that right, Dr. Estrada?
That's right.
Thank you, Dr. Estrada. So,
good morning, everyone.
Yes. We'll say good morning.
Good morning, everyone. How you doing?
And Dr. Battle, say good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Yes. I want to talk to you, Dr. Battle, about Tennessee State. I've got some connections there.
Yes.
Good connections there. So, Dr. Estrada, can you tell us a little about your story with high-impact tutoring, particularly when and why did your district start tutoring? Why did you do this? Why did you get into this?
Well, thank you again for having us here, and I think being able to share with so many folks who care about our students, to be able to talk about some of the strategies we're using, such as high-impact tutoring, I think is really important. So like many of school districts and schools, during the pandemic, when we all moved into this distance learning, we were trying to figure out what's the best approach to do this. Everyone had good intentions. Do you all remember that moment? Where everyone's saying, okay, what are we gonna do? Who's been doing this? How do we learn quickly? And then make sure we can happen immediately. And on top of that, we knew all the other impact that the COVID was creating for our families and students. So we went through that experience. But what we realized is that even though we knew that we were doing the best we could, there was still more that we needed to do. And when we thought about what kind of supports we needed for our students coming back from the pandemic, we also had to realize another thing. Yes, the pandemic caused some real serious delay in learning for our students. However, we also knew that for certain students, that was already an issue. This was not something new. And so we knew that our focus had to be multi-pronged. And so we very much have focused on intervention during the school day, making sure that is happening. But we also said, how about tutoring as a critical opportunity for our kids? Because we also got funding for extended learning time. Now, many of our families with means have already been accessing tutoring. Tutoring is actually an equity issue in many ways. Because if a student's struggling or you want to accelerate, families who can have been hiring tutors, have been working with tutors. And for us, we realized, well, here's our chance for our kids. Now, tutoring, though, has been something that, like Susanna shared, it wasn't easy to just get started. When we received the funding, we had a slow start. We had to get organized quickly. We had to figure out from who can do the scale of a district our size. We have over 400,000 students, over 1,100 schools, who can meet our degree of scale, plus all the different languages our students also speak. So it was something where we had to rethink our system structures and strategies, but we knew that it was a critical aspect to our comprehensive instructional program.
And one more thing, Dr. Estrada, what did it look like when you first started?
So trying to find the vendors was an essential aspect for our work. That partnership, community organizations who wanted to work with us, because quite frankly, many of our educators were already overwhelmed with some of the things they were trying to do to offer distance learning. And then coming out of that, now trying to get settled into protocols. We all remember all the things we had to do to be able to get kids back in school. So for us, it was something where we needed to make sure we had partners who could provide that service for our kids, because our teachers just could not sign up for that kind of support outside of the school day. So being able to do that was important. The other thing is we first focus on what we call our priority schools and our students who needed the most support. So how to be able to identify who our English learners were, who are Black and Latino students who were not experiencing the same success. We used that data to drive, but also making sure that decision was driven by our schools that we know were mostly impacted within the communities, which were our lowest performing schools, but also socioeconomically most impacted. And so we prioritize those with the greatest need first.
Great, thank you, thank you. Dr. Battle, to you, same question. When did you begin tutoring and why? When did you do this and why?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think our stories are a little bit similar, but there's a little bit of uniqueness in Nashville as we thought about our design and structure around high impact tutoring. So I am fortunate enough that I am serving as superintendent for the district I graduated from, and that I've at the time I'm supported for over 20 years. And so as I moved into the superintendency, I was one of those people who kind of knew where all the dead bodies were, right? There's pros and cons to that. So I knew a lot about our instructional framework. And we decided back in 2019, as I was moving into the role, that we really need to reimagine how we were educating and supporting students in Nashville. And so almost immediately after I took on the superintendency role, we kicked off an initiative that was titled Reimagine Nashville Public Schools. So we were having conversations before the pandemic, and we had already kind of put a stake in the ground that we needed to be clearer around, one, how we were providing high quality Tier 1 instruction for our young people, but also how we were intervening. We were not clear, we were not crisp, we were not very coherent around what that would look like. And so as the pandemic came, we had already put the stake in the ground, right? Now it was just really around the funding, right? The investment to launch our high dosage, high impact tutoring program in Nashville. And so in some ways, the pandemic wasn't all bad for Nashville, because we, through ESSER funding, we were able to really kick off our programming. So we kicked off in spring of 2021, of course, because students were virtual during that first semester. We kicked it off, but we kicked it off very intentionally that we wanted to design our program that we could sustain it beyond ESSER. We knew that we were receiving one-time funding, so we were already thinking about, when there is no funding, what does this look like in Nashville, because we were in it for the long haul. I mean, we simply see our tutoring programming as what students deserve, what's needed, not an add-on to their educational experience. And at that time, all the research was indicating that it would take years for our students to recover due to the disruptions caused by the pandemic. So we had a sense of urgency of building a really strong tutoring program in Nashville, but we launched back in the spring of 2021. We became really clear early on around the difference between skills-based interventions and standards-based interventions. That was definitely key to our programming design. And we started out focused on our transition grades, both in literacy and numeracy for our students. But there was one thing that through our continuous improvement model that we did get wrong right off the bat. And that was, we thought we needed to control cost early on. So we were making trade-offs because of the long-term visioning around sustainability. We were making some trade-offs as opposed to being really aspirational in our approach, because we knew this was the right research-based strategy to start moving forward for our students. And so we've been responding to that since the spring of 2021 and have been able to continue with good foundations, continuity, and scaling across our system.
Thank you. And you answered my second question, and that was, what was it like when you first started?
It was hard.
It was,
It was hard. It was really complicated.
that's what I was trying to get.
Yes, it was really hard. It took a lot of planning. It took a lot of leadership capacity. It took time to really establish our programming and our why as a district. And just being a district leader for so long, we sometimes don't slow down enough to really ground everyone in the why around our integrated approach. And I'll give a shout out to two of our district leaders who are here, Rachel and Courtney, because their team has been really critical in our process of standing up our tutoring program, but also the continuous improvements that are necessary. We're adapting as we're learning more, as we're getting information back from our students, how they're responding to our feedback surveys and our tutors and our partners and our educators and our families. And so they're really helping us continue to deliver on a high quality program. But it was hard in the beginning. You can imagine when this has not been the structure, getting everyone really rowing in the same direction, particularly in, I like to think I'm in a large district, but not quite as large as LA, but in large districts, scalability is oftentimes the hardest thing to accomplish, particularly when you want really strong coherence in your system.
Well, it touches on a subject of leadership, and you both have demonstrated leadership in this. So back to you, Dr. Estrada. So what does it look like now? I mean, what does it look like? What's the content? What grades? Things like that.
Right. So to her point, you continue to evolve in what's working and what's not. And I think one of the key things that we learned was what were going to be those quality indicators that were going to tell us something was working well or not. Obviously, we have progress monitoring data that became a critical element of our work. But as you started to implement, we thought, okay, now we're seeing the data across K to 12. It can't just be certain students. I have a lot of kids that need accelerated support. So a couple things shifted. One, we had traditionally been leaning on partners who could do the after-school programming. One of the things we found is when it's in person, that's one thing, coming to our school and being able to work with students. The second piece was the virtual learning, which now parents are opening up their homes to this virtual opportunity for tutoring. So one of the things we had to shift was helping people understand what the school's role was. So for example, if you have tutors at your school site, what is your role as the principal and as a teacher? And that's something that continues to need to be refined because I hope we talk more about that, like the next steps, because I think that's a real opportunity for us to really think about how we refine that partnership. The second thing that we found with the virtual tutoring was that we needed to educate our families as well about how did this work, what are the safety guardrails that we have in place, and who are these partners and what was the process. So we've done some work there. As far as who we're offering it to, that has significantly expanded to over 75,000 students in our district who are receiving tutoring support.
Wow.
Now, being able to offer that also required us to think about the kind of quality support that our schools and tutoring partners were offering. So we use a common assessment now. At the time when we started tutoring, we did not consistently use one common assessment. So we were at like a 60% participation rate on that assessment. Now we have a 95% or higher participation rate. So now we know exactly where kids are. So now with our partners, I'm like, attendance matters, participation, but also are they growing? And how are you part of the collective team discussing that student's progress based on that data? But we didn't have those kinds of systems in place in the beginning. We're just trying to make sure, did kids show up? Did somebody give some additional support? So we've been able to expand, but we've also worked really hard on quality. During a time of this fiscal situation we're in, the question of impact becomes greater and greater. And so we had to get better at being able to show what has been the impact and what are those quality indicators that we use as we continue to expand to more students. I think another group, it's been a small group of additional support for our English learners around ELD. So now we're starting to specialize a little bit more of partners who really specifically are focused on those kids who are English learners, who are the group where I had the greatest dropout rate. You know what's been happening as far as immigration rates in my community. So I knew I needed to create multiple opportunities for our students to get caught up. And so finding partners like that has also been an intentional part. Who can meet and work with my students with disabilities, my English learners, because they need a specialized support as well through tutoring.
Excellent, excellent. Dr. Battle, same thing. Through all the challenges, you made it through there. So what does it look like now? And content, grades? What does it look like?
Yeah, so back in the spring of 2021, we started out with around 150 students. Now we tutor approximately 8,000 students consistently every year. We have expanded K-9. We're still providing tutoring connections in both literacy and in math. So our goal every year, we serve over about 80,000 students in Nashville. We try to target at least 10% of our student population. We're leveraging our benchmark assessments as well, which we update frequently to really help guide us around who should be connected to our tutoring options. We're still offering both online and in-person tutoring in Nashville, but going back to our opening comments, we are still, this is possible, we are still leveraging the gold standard practices around high dosage tutoring. We're looking at a 3-to-1, at most 4-to-1 ratio. We're consistently connecting our students to the same tutors throughout their tutoring experience. We're offering the majority of our tutoring experience is during the school day, and we are aligned to our curriculum. And so that's something that has shifted. I think in the beginning, we were trying to, with a sense of urgency, just connect students to the experience and the tutoring opportunity. Now we are very much outcomes-based. We're looking and talking to our vendors and our partners around the outcomes that we are envisioning for all of our young people, giving our scope of serving students K-9 for literacy and math.
Excellent. This is good stuff here. So I think I know the answer to this question, but so why are you sticking with tutoring? Dr. Battle, why are you sticking with it?
It's the most evidence-based strategy that we have. And again, we think about tutoring in an integrated approach, both high quality tier 1 instruction and being really clear about how we intervene for our students, particularly in a standards-based way in Nashville. We have conducted evaluations and research consistently. So we have a robust research assessment and evaluation department in Nashville. We also have external partners who are helping us really evaluate. So we have kind of long-term studies happening, but we also have rapid response studies happening. So we're not having to wait year after year to make those adjustments. Each quarter, we're getting that information and we're making adjustments as needed. But we know that, you know, it's not a silver bullet. We know that it will take a very strong integrated approach to continue to serve students at the capacity that we do. And again, it's working. I mean, you heard a little bit about the outcomes that we're experiencing in Nashville. For 4 years in a row, we've been able to attain the highest level growth rating for our students according to our growth metrics in Nashville. In addition to that, from an achievement standpoint, we have surpassed pre-pandemic achievement ratings in every tested category according to our assessment system in Tennessee, and we're graduating students at a higher rate than we ever have before. But I also have to go to just the whole child approach when we're looking at attendance. We are experiencing the highest attendance rates. Our chronic absenteeism is decreased significantly since we've come back fully in person due to the disruptions caused by the pandemic. So we're seeing all of that. We're seeing the social emotional learning competencies of our students grow when we were looking at our attendance of students who are participating in our tutoring program. I mean, we're seeing numbers as high as over 80% attendance for our tutoring program. And it has a lot to do with the gold standard, right, criteria that we're using to build our programming all across our city. And there is not anything more joyous for a superintendent to walk into any school any day, regardless of the part of town, regardless of the zip code, regardless of the demographics of the students being served, and to experience students at high levels being engaged, both in Tier 1 instruction, but my goodness, through our high dosage tutoring program in Nashville.
Great, thank you. I know Jasmine Walker's here from my outcomes-based contracting team. I know she appreciates the shout-out for outcomes-based contract. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Dr. Estrada, why are you sticking with this?
So twofold. One, we have seen as part of our larger comprehensive approach to instruction, we know that being able to extend that learning day for our kids is critical. So we offer intervention during the school day. We have been able to do that. We've also been making sure, though, that that tutoring opportunity is at that high quality. And so our data is showing that students who participated in tutoring have seen twice the growth than those students who did not, right here in our district, right? We know that's possible. But then we started to see time when we started to really implement our strategy with true fidelity and integrity. What we saw was we are now actually, just like Nashville, at pre-pandemic levels for all of our students. And that means my Black, Latino, students with disabilities, and English learners. We've been able to make sure that we were back to that pre-pandemic level. In California, LA Unified actually has met the state performance level, has shown the greatest growth, be more than any other school district in the state. And that's with everything that's been going on in our city of Los Angeles, from fires to actual immigration raids. And the students that really surprised me were those that have been impacted by these things the most. My English learners, reclassification rate, and we all know the data on our students who reclassify. When English learners reclassify, they outperform their English-only peers. That's the reality. And our rate of reclassification has been the highest. AP performance, being able to access and pass AP classes and be able to pass those exams with 3 or higher, has been the highest in LA Unified across the country. That data, though, what it said to me was, it has to be a comprehensive approach. Tutoring is an opportunity. One thing that we're beginning to explore is, we've been using it as a strategy for remediation, closing those achievement gaps. I want to start shifting us to thinking, how is it an opportunity for acceleration? Many of you have been in many classrooms where we talk about differentiation. I know I have students sitting in classrooms who could be much more advanced than where they are right now. Where do we create opportunities for that type of differentiated for advanced learning? Tutoring can really be an opportunity for that. So I do see us being able to begin to shift because we're seeing those gains. But also, I have to be honest, there's also funding that's attached for us in the state of California through our ELOP funds, Extended Learning Opportunity Program, that allows us to use dollars beyond the school day. Like many school districts, we're dealing with a really tough fiscal situation. And so for us, we prioritize those dollars for tutoring because we know it works. It provides that extended learning opportunity, and it's a way for us to make sure that our students get good quality learning, that it happens beyond our traditional day. So we're making sure we're leveraging those dollars. I also want to say we've had some really great partners too, who've come to the table and said to us, Karla, tell us where you need the greatest support and we'll adapt and change, and even brought funding. And I know Jamie Halper has been one of them, Step Up has been a fantastic supporter of ensuring that certain communities especially get that extra support. So we've had partners who said, we'll go look for funding too, because we know that there's certain tailored support that you need, and we're gonna go help you get those dollars too. So partnership matters as well.
Great, great. Well, let me stick with you a little bit more on this. So,
Sure.
LA Unified School District, how do you see scaling going forward as part of your larger strategy for students?
Yeah. So scaling is going to have to look a couple different ways. For us, we have also been monitoring the data of the tutoring support that comes from our teachers. And what we've been seeing is actually when it comes to teacher, no surprise, right? If you have a connection with your student and you encourage them to, mijo, I'm gonna see you after school, right? You know that teacher can catch them. We have been seeing participation rates be higher. We also saw greater gains in performance when it's their actual teacher. So one of the things we're shifting to is starting to see, because let's be honest, during the pandemic, not so many folks wanted to work after school, we get that, but now that's shifted. And so more of my teachers are interested in providing that support. So we're seeing an evolution there. The other thing that we're seeing an evolution for us is how we are going to increase the participation of families and students who need it the most. We need to really pierce through those families who are hesitant to participate for many different reasons, and we're still trying to really crack that code of how we're going to engage more families and offer this support. I have before and after school programming happening across all of my schools. So we have the schools open. I just need to make sure that the students who need it most are staying for this opportunity, and some of that is cracking the code with our parents. That's the next big step for us.
Same question to you, but quick question, Dr. Battle. When did Nashville become Metro Nashville? Was that?
We're actually trying to undo that right now.
Okay.
Back in 1964, to be exact. But we're in the process now of kind of rebranding, and we're actually dropping the Metro.
Okay.
We're going to be just Nashville Public Schools.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious about that one. So, same to you. How do you see scaling as part of your larger strategy?
Yeah, so I mean, right now we are really trying to double down on our approach and the fidelity by which we're delivering our tutoring programming. We are really, connecting deeply with our partners around this need to scale. One of our major partners is Tutor by Teachers. Rahul is here in the room somewhere. They've been amazing partners to us in Nashville, just side by side with us on the ground as we've been looking at our scaling across our district. We do have a few other partners, once in Paloma that we work with as well. So we have great partners. We started out, by the way, with many more partners and have really zoomed in, because it's important for us that as we're talking about our tutoring programming, that it is a good fit for us, given the diversity of our school district. We want to make sure that we're meeting all the needs of our students. So something that's happening in Tennessee, I guess I'll go ahead and surface, is since we've started our high dosage programming, we are now home to 3rd and 5th grade retention. And tutoring is by law a part of that kind of intervention model for students to avoid retention. And so I'm just going to be pretty frank. Originally, that kind of stopped us in our breaks, because that was not the intention for our original gold standard high dosage tutoring programming. And so we needed to kind of retool our community around our approach and our belief that again, this is an integrated approach. And so there have been some implications, if you will, to our ability to scale and where we scale, because what we don't want is for students to be retained at those levels in lots of ways against what research already tells us about retention, particularly at the early grade level. So we are responding to that because we have both of those retention laws in place in Tennessee. And so we are thinking about scaling and investing in a very different way to be able to get to what Dr. Estrada has already shared. How can we get to acceleration for all of our students? And we're thinking about the early grades as well. What is necessary for our students from birth, right, to their pre-K kindergarten readiness, to make sure that many more of our students are on track and can benefit in a much different way when it comes to our tutoring program. But we're looking at sustainability. We want continuity in our current tutoring program. Listen, we know it works, and so we want to continue to make the tweaks and and adapt where we need to accelerate and support our students at a greater rate. We're thinking about our MTSS model, our multi-tiered systems of supports. We've become even clearer with our school teams, with our principals and our educators around where high dosage tutoring fits in. We're getting smarter around our advocacy for our exceptional education students. And of course, in Tennessee at least, it's not, our tutoring program is not recognized as one of the key interventions for our students. And so we're talking to our advocates and policymakers around the funding and the supports that can be in place for some of our most vulnerable students as we're thinking about scaling.
Great. Now, this is some wonderful conversation, but I know Susanna and Kathy are on a tight ship here, so where's my time check guy? You're late, man. So I've been trying to get you. Okay, 10 minutes, okay. All right, Karla, back to you here. How do you decide, students have all types of needs. How do you decide which needs tutoring is best positioned to address?
Yeah. This is why the diversity of tutors matters. We have some tutors who have been very clear with us about we're really great with this student population. And when someone says that to me, that means a lot. When people are like, yeah, we could tutor anybody, then I'm like, okay, what is your data really showing? What are you really skilled at? Because I don't have just a cookie cutter set of kids. I've got kids with different types of needs, different families and communities. They need a partnership in a local community that looks different. Remember, I'm 710 square miles. It's a lot of space to try to cover and very different communities that you're serving. So when I talk to the partners about how they can keep working with us, I love when they tell me that piece of it of like, hey, this is what we're really good at. So as we've been looking at the data to see where the next evolution, you will see things like our data digs, which we've been having with our tutors, has been fantastic. Because our data digs talk about what has attendance been, what does participation look like, what have been the progress, pre and post data looking like, and where can we be better partners for you? So some of that conversation too has been an essential piece for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great, same to you, Dr. Bass.
Yeah, very similar. We continue to allow our student feedback and assessment data to guide how we prioritize students in our program. We know that all students benefit from tutoring, but we are really focused on pairing skills-based interventions with standards-based tutoring. So that is where we're trying to become smarter as an organization and prioritizing based upon student needs. When I think about like the student-based conversation, we have been very fortunate in Nashville to have an amazing mayor who supports our education system deeply. Very fortunate. He's the first mayor whose kids have attended our schools, so we're really proud of that. And our Board of Education, and they've worked really closely to help us move beyond the conversation around who and who not with regards to our tutoring program. And so we've chosen to take a very aspirational budgeting process in Nashville. Every year I have an opportunity to say to my community, here's where we are, right? This is how our students are performing. Here's how we've assessed their needs. Here's what we know from a research-based model around what we need to accelerate. So I'm taking you on a logic model kind of theory of action journey, right? So here is what that investment looks like. And then I kind of leave it there and say, you tell me, are we going to invest in our children or are we not? Right? And so we've been able to continue to scale, and refine our tutoring program because of the commitment from our Board of Education, from our mayor, from our city, and committing to investing where our students, recognizing where they are, but also just valuing what's needed for us to continue to move forward. So that prioritization is there as we're scaling, because we want to have a lot of integrity to the way in which we approach our tutoring program, but we're also not limiting ourselves and our aspirations to make sure that every child has access to the opportunity that we know will benefit them now and in the future.
Great, great. I'm going to stick with you, Dr. Battle, on this one. What trade-offs have you had to make as you, wait a minute, I'm a lawyer, let me change that. Have you made any trade-offs?
That's good, that's a good one.
Have you had to make any trade-offs as you scaled up, and if so, what are those trade-offs?
Yeah, I think I've surfaced a few of them. We, just in the partnership relationship, we've had to make some trade-offs there. Again, we originally started with a very large portfolio where we had the sense of urgency just trying to meet needs, and so we've had to really become laser focused on the few partners who've been able to meet the diverse needs of our students. We did abandon early on we started our tutoring program all volunteer-based, so we were not compensating anyone for tutoring, and we have shifted in that direction. I surfaced the retention laws in Tennessee, and so there have been some trade-offs because we have to prioritize students who are at risk for retention due to the retention laws in Tennessee. By the way, we've been able to keep that below 1% of our students being retained
Wow, nice, yeah.
from year to year. And as a result of that, due to the evolving landscape in public education, we've also been able to have a really stable enrollment because families believe that, and they should, that Nashville is the best place for my child to grow and learn, and they're unwavering in their commitment to make sure that every one of their kids are successful. We have a mantra, every student being known, and as we talk about that, our tutoring program is key to that. We are committed to making sure that our students are known, supported, valued, cared for, and on a guaranteed path towards success. And so when I think about just the trade-offs, coming back to your question, we've had to think about the implications of state laws and other policy changes that have had an impact. We had to be responsive to the ESSER cliff as well. Fortunately, we were thinking about that well in advance. And so one other stat that I will share is every research-based strategy that we implemented during ESSER, we evaluated along the way, and every one that was able to yield positive outcomes and a return on investment, our city has picked up in our operating budget. So we've been able to maintain every key strategy.
Excellent. What is it, the South has something to say? You ever heard that before?
No.
I have.
You've heard that before. Some rap guy said that years ago. Okay, listen, I got the 5-minute warning here, but Dr. Estrada, last comment. Did you have to make any trade-offs, and if so, what? And then we got a few minutes for
I think she's already hit on the amount of partners that we had. That definitely has decreased, but it's been more data-driven as well. I think there has been some clarity of who's working well with our schools and which partnerships have worked out well. So we've definitely done that. I think as far as trade-offs go, as I started, we've used this as part of our comprehensive approach. I'm looking at high quality instructional materials every single day in every single classroom. I'm looking at interventions and making sure those kids get the right supports based on the data during the school day. I'm looking at how are we also offering enrichment opportunities for our kids, because too often we just focus on the remedial, closing those achievement gaps, and not enough of what brings kids to school, what inspires them for learning. And then lastly, the tutoring has really served as that additional opportunity, that one additional chance that I can give to our students. So it's a comprehensive approach to instruction. And as she shared, it's yielding the results. I just shared with you across the system how we're performing, how I'm seeing instruction changing every day. I think the trade-offs are going to be around, as in the place of declining enrollment, where we see funding continue to be a support for us. We're lucky here in California, where I do have significant ELOP dollars that are used for both enrichment as well as for tutoring. That's our primary use for that funding. That, as long as that continues, we'll be able to feel like we're not trading anything, because we know it's part of our comprehensive approach. Where I get worried is if over time people are not seeing how we can do both. Enrichment as well as tutoring. This is why I'm trying to help our tutors. Like, how are you going to become part of the acceleration plan, not just intervention plan? I need you to help me accelerate, because I've got kids who are ready to keep growing. How can you help solve that? That's what I'm trying to make sure that we don't have to do a trade-off, that I don't have to say, I'm sorry, I need to make sure this child can read by a certain grade and be able to compete with the world, but those arts programs, those STEM programs, all those other things, that's the trade-off. I don't want to do that. And so I'm really trying to be thoughtful with our partners now of how can we begin to shift that, and what can we do to continue to be strong partners so the impact is felt for our kids and my families feel it too.
Great. So we have a few minutes left for some questions from the audience. This gentleman couldn't even let me finish.
Sure.
All right, what's your question? You can shout. Okay, state your name.
Maurice Ellisford, I'm a teacher on the advisory group for NSSA. How are you approaching using AI in your districts, whether it's type of? How are you approaching or considering or already using AI in your district through high dosage tutoring or otherwise?
Yeah. You want to start or? Go ahead. Okay. So one of the things with AI is that, as we know, there's kind of a continuum there, right? And so it's already living in a lot of our systems as it currently. And so it's not necessarily that we're not aware of it or that we're not leveraging it as appropriately. I think what we're really trying to be clear on is what is it that we're going to use it for when it comes to tutoring for our students? Where do we want to see it work well for our kids, and where is it still important for that adult interaction to continue to happen? I myself graduated from a continuation school, which is an alternative program, which means I was not the typical student. I was not someone who was always motivated, or family circumstance created many different situations that made sure that I wasn't always engaged in schooling. And so if it wasn't for those adults who helped keep me connected, who helped make sure that I participated, continued to persist, I would not be where I'm sitting right now, quite honored and humbled to be on a stage with someone like her. But it's one of the things that if you're not careful with AI, people start to think that you don't need that adult to student interaction. So I'm being very thoughtful of where is it currently existing in some of our high dosage tutoring programming? And then second of all, how is it still being used as a tool, not to replace what is going on between that teacher and the adult? The second piece that I'm seeing on AI is also making sure that I teach my students how to use it well, because if not, it becomes a different kind of method in which, and many have probably heard of our EdTech resolution that has been passed by our board. It starts to create fear of like, are our students still really learning, or are they now creating another crutch through AI to be able to ensure our students are successful? I personally think that there is such power in being able to use a tool like AI and how to be so tailored. Some of our personalized learning has been so adaptive to our student needs, which is fantastic. I used to be a special education teacher. Being able to provide that kind of tailored support is not easy, but AI can help us do that, but it never replaces that interaction and that kind of coaching and guidance that a teacher, an educator, an adult provides to my kids. So that's how we're balancing both.
Yeah, and I'll react briefly. I am in complete agreement. Accelerator, not to replace. Those relationships matter. In fact, when we survey our students around their tutoring experiences throughout the year, one of the most favorable responses is a relationship that they've built with their tutor. I mean, our students are saying someone shows up for me every day, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, to make sure I'm seen and I have what I need. And so we don't want to replace that relationship. It really does go a long way. We have navigators in our system where we're checking in with students frequently, often, and that helps us to really tailor personalized experiences that we need to provide for our students. So I don't see it as a replacement, but sure, there are ways to leverage AI for scaffolds and just meeting the various needs of our young people. And then the second thing is really helping our students be really responsible around AI. We do want to dispel, the myths and the beliefs around AI, because it can be a powerful tool if leveraged correctly, particularly around the critical thinking skills we really want to push our students and educators around.
So, Susanna, my timekeeper says we're out of time, but should I abide by him or take?
We probably have to pay attention. Do you want us to do one more?
One more question from the audience. One last question. No more?
So over here on the left.
Okay, wait a minute.
Hi, my
can't
name is
see.
Shan. I'm from Factor Group, the Family Caregiver Advisory. I'm also the parent leader from Innovate Public School. And my kids and a lot of families which I know, we are special need kids parents. So I'm very interested in Karla's background, and I have questions about high-dose tutoring, about implementation and the scheduling, all these things regarding to the kids with different abilities, especially the students with ADHD, autism, intellectual disability. I know that Karla mentioned language-based learning differences. That's we already go through. So I want to more focus on the learning disabilities. And also, how do you determine what type of tutoring support each student needs, like one-on-one or small group, or personalized or adaptive tutoring? And how do you address behavior regulation during the tutoring sessions? how do you decide whether the tutoring should happen, like during the school day or after school, in person or remotely? With what kind of credential the teachers, and how is funding allocated for students with high support needs? Are there different fundings, or they're using the same fundings? And how do you measure the success for the students with disabilities or complex learning profiles?
Well,
And
that's
what
a lot of
challenges you?
questions, so
I'm sorry.
since I messed up and I let this go a little longer, we're going to just take one of those questions, ma'am, if you don't mind. Dr. Estrada, you can
But
keep
I'm
it short.
happy, no, I'm happy to generalize, and of course,
Yeah,
we
sure.
could talk after. So a couple things. One, this is why I said to you, one of the areas that I see as a real opportunity of growth for a lot of our partners is how are you truly meeting the needs of students with special needs? She talked about kids with learning disabilities, autism. That requires a specialized kind of training for the tutors to have. And so this is this is the reason why we're also leveraging more of our teachers now at our school site for tutoring, because they already have a relationship with the students. How we decide who and what is truly based on performance data, using our progress monitoring tool, which is iReady. But also, if the IEP team determines that a student needs that extra support for tutoring, we will offer that to them as well. They get access to everything just like any of my other students. The tricky part is, to her point, about how specialized is that tutor really able to meet that student's need? Because the approaches they take, the strategies they use are going to look different than what you provide any typical student. So one of the things that, in addition to making sure you offer it, making sure that you recognize what's in the IEP, I think there's also a real opportunity for the school teams to talk about what's the best way to meet that child's needs. And so it is an opportunity, I want to say again to folks in this room, for growth is meeting the needs of diverse learners like our English learners and our students with disabilities. And if you have ideas in LA, I welcome to hear them and see them.
Okay, let's give Dr. Battle and Dr. Estrada a great hand, okay? Thank you.